Guys, Gare here. Long time no see. It's been a few weeks anyway. And the reason I haven't done any readings or videos lately is because I've been extremely ill the past month with bronchitis. So, if I sound and look more dreadful than usual, that's my excuse, but on the mend the last few days finally. It's been pretty rough, a few weeks, but it's like I always try to focus on, there's always people much worse off than I am, including children. So, try to keep the complaining to a minimum. Anyway, with this video, I want to do a fun thing and combine two loves. One of them being the love of old comic books. Hey, the comic book community, my old friends, and also the love of poetry. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about this poem and its history, read you the poem, and talk about how it all came about a little bit. This poem is called Wonder Woman, issue number 179. And boys and girls, the Gare thought to bring visual aids. So if you're going to do a poetry reading about a comic book, this is Wonder Woman 179. Some of you may recognize it. Edited by Denny O'Neil. Artwork by the late Mike Sekowsky. I think Mike is no longer with us. And this was very controversial. This came out in the late 60s, issue 179. This was December of 1968. And I was a small child and living in Nashville. And there, I was reading those late Silver Age comic books, Marvel, and just that wonderful period, where Kirby and Lee and Ditko were at Marvel, and Carmine Infantino and Denny, and so many wonderful people were at DC. And it was announced, that there was going to be change in Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman had at that point been around 25, maybe almost 30 years, and continuously being published, but I believe the sales were lagging. Denny O'Neil came from Charlton with some other artists and became an editor at DC. And I remember the letters columns at the time during his period there, Dear Denny, as it said in the letter columns. And this was quite controversial because Wonder Woman basically is giving up her powers and leaving Paradise Island, and she goes on to learn the martial arts. To talk about it sounds almost a little bit ridiculous now, but she had a partner, a mentor. What controversial? I Ching, he's right there, and I apologize, this is going to be a little bit blurry. And she started having various, she became sort of she had a boutique, and she was mortal, but she was very well trained in the martial arts. This is the new Wonder Woman. Diana Prince is the new Wonder Woman. And she had various adventures, and you can kind of see her outfits sort of late 60s mod. And safe to say that most people did not like this. And I was in the minority and have always been in the minority on this because I loved it. I loved the way it was different. It was a change, something different, something I thought it was interesting. I loved Sekowsky's art, and Sekowsky also did interesting work and adventure, like on Supergirl, and I believe he worked on Metal Men during that period, around that period. Did some interesting things. Here is like issue 191, was kind of like a flashback issue. She's like, as a matter of fact, there's Supergirl right there, and she says, "Do you remember when I changed from the old Wonder Woman to the new?" I'm like, "Yeah, that was about 12 issues before." So, a couple of points. Even as a child, I knew that this was temporary. There was no way that she was not going to have her powers, forever. It was probably going to be, for a year or two, and it was. I think this run was about 2.5 years. Here she is returning to Paradise Island. Um, and I love the artwork in it. I thought it was interesting. I understand that most people did not care for it. It was controversial when you have the single female superhero. There was Supergirl, but she came along much later. And, there was a few others that didn't have quite the profile that Wonder Woman does, of course. And this was at the height of the early days of the women's movement of the 60s. And there was a lot going on at the time, of course. You had a lot of civil strife. You had the Vietnam War, hippies of the 60s, these various movements, And so there was a lot going on in the society. And you take this female superhero's powers from her. And, that doesn't rub very well. And O'Neil has said that he understands. I don't know if he regrets it or anything, but he said that he understands. But this is something that I've always been the minority on, liking this comic. I would not have wanted her to stay this way forever. And even as my comic book guy was just teasing me recently, we were talking about this, and I told myself, even as a kid, like I knew this wasn't going to last forever. And he said, "Oh, you were cynical, even as a little boy." And I said, "Well, I wouldn't call it cynical, but it's pretty obvious she wasn't going to stay that way." But anyway, Wonder Woman 179, The New Day and the Prince. Another quick story about this before I read my short poem is that I actually missed this issue when I was a kid. I knew that this was coming. It was kind of a previewed, announced maybe in a previous issue, but this was the issue where she actually transformed to a mortal, and I missed it, and on the spinning rack at a local convenience store, and it took me decades to get this. I could not get it. I mean, probably it really wasn't until you started to see comic book stores and urban centers, maybe started to be more pervasive in the late 80s, 90s. Conventions started to happen more often. I think I got this about 12 years ago. And there was a gentleman who I've come to know a little bit who came to my town, and he was at one of these, these conventions where they have, novelties and comic books and old toys, and someone from the television show comes as a guest and does signings and things like that. And I remember going through I wasn't really looking for it. I remember looking through the late Silver Age comic, and there it was. And I think I paid, price wasn't bad, I think maybe $15, something like that. And I just thought, oh my God, there it is, Wonder Woman 179. And I told him, I said, I have been looking for this for, what was it at that point? Probably, more than 30 years. Probably 35 years at that point, if my math is correct. Still foggy from the medicines and stuff, guys. But anyway, a few years ago, I wrote a short poem about this, and I'll just read it here real quick. It's short. Wonder Woman, issue 179. Excuse me. Finally, at long last, there it is. Wonder Woman comic, issue number 179, dated December 1968. Stumbled upon at a Comic Con, found after 35 lost years, beloved by me, ostracized by many. Behold the woman wonder upon the cover, teary-eyed, casting away her iconic outfit as her Amazonian sisters weep, left behind, A mere mortal now, her powers surrendered for the love of a human. The feminists and purists cried foul. Editor Denny O'Neil slammed, and is still explaining this series all these many years later. I was dismayed. I loved it and love it still. Such sacrifice. Giving up superpowers for love. Imagine. The artwork mesmerized me, and I even liked her mentor, the unlikely named I Ching. And didn't the haters realize that inevitably she'd get her powers back someday? Look again, closer this time. Mere mortal Diana Prince. Didn't she train rigorously in the martial arts? Didn't she meditate to strengthen her spirit? Didn't she defeat villains as powerful as ever, even in her reduced, if determined state? Did we learn that we must go within and discover our inner true powers? If she lost her magic, didn't she discover the magical? Doesn't the mightiest among us go weak for love and struggle to be reborn and heroic? That's it. Wonder Woman issue 179. Something I'm in the minority of liking. Is there something that you like that most people do not? And, you know, like I said, I knew it was temporary. I enjoyed the Sekowsky artwork. You know, some of you may remember this, you know. And especially interesting now that, you know, the movie came out this past year and did so well. I'm kind of lukewarm on that film. You know, I liked it, but I just thought the whole enterprise could have been better. But anyway, Wonder Woman, issue 179, December 1968. Among us mortals. So, but still wondrous woman. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your comments about, you know, what did you think about this? Have you looked for a comic book for decades and then came across it? What's the longest you've ever had to wait on getting one? And just share your thoughts on the poem if you like. And thank you very much for watching. And hopefully next video, you know, won't be quite as disturbing. So thanks a lot.